let's change our focus quickly. Now, Natasha has been disqualified. Well, not that Tasha or the Natasha in the Big Brother reality show, but is the Natasha Akpoti of the Social Democratic Party in Kogi State. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has declared 23 political parties to contest the governorship election in Kogi State and 45 parties to contest in Bayelsa State. That gets our attention. Let's turn to our Abuja studio with Mr. Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner in charge of publicity. Thank you so much, Mr. Okoye, for coming on tonight. How would you react to some of the issues that have been generated? Some say that some of these candidates, or nominated candidates, have said that it is illegal for them to be disqualified.
Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission did not disqualify any candidate. What we did was that we looked at sections 177 and 187 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and used it as a guideline in relation to the receipt of the nomination submitted by the different political parties. Now, if you look at section 177 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, it is very, very clear. It says that for you to contest for the position of governor of a state, one, you must be a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by birth. Secondly, you must be a member of a political party and sponsored by that particular political party. Thirdly, you must have attained the age of 35 years. And fourth, you must have been educated up to school certificate level. So these are the threshold, the constitutional threshold provided for in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, Section 187 also says that if you are a governorship candidate, you must also nominate an associate. And that associate must also possess the same qualifying criteria as yourself that wants to contest for the position of governorship. So the political parties were given a deadline of the 9th day of September 2019, within which to submit the list of their candidates and their personal particulars. And the political parties did submit. So what the commission did was to look at the personal particulars submitted by the candidates to see whether they have satisfied the qualifying criteria provided for in section 177 and 187 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the political parties that submitted the names of candidates that did not meet the age requirement, we informed them that they did not have any valid nomination. So it is the validity of the nomination that is in issue and not the issue of the commission disqualifying any candidate.
All right, let me come. I'm now being joined on the program by one of the aggrieved persons who is not really happy, Natasha Akpoti, the governorship candidate of the SDP. Thank you so much for coming on. You're obvious.
Good evening, and thanks for having me, Shem.
Speaking to you before now, you said you're very angry from what has happened. What is your grievance exactly?
I'm actually extremely upset that I have been disqualified from participating in the November 16th election.
He said you're not disqualified, but that you did not, some of that, I don't know if you fall into that category of those who did not meet the deadline of September the 9th.
That is what INEC insists on. But if you permit me to draw your attention to this Electoral Act, which actually specifies the guidelines for the 2019 election, we're in 2019. Section 31, subsection 1 here actually expressly states that within 60 days before the election, political parties are expected to submit names of their nominees, governorship and deputy.
Did you mean that? Did you do that?
Of course, my form was submitted on the 6th of September.
But
section also states here that under no circumstances whatsoever would INEC reject nor disqualify. It's here.
Okay, so you have a deputy, because what I understand that your deputy does not meet the criteria, age criteria to becoming, to stand for election. Is that true?
My party nominated a 34-year-old engineer.
That's wrong, isn't it?
Of course, it falls below it does not meet the constitutional requirement for anyone contesting the position of governor or deputy. However, What the electoral guideline actually specifies is actually window for remedies to be made. And it's contained in subsection 33, where political parties are allowed to substitute. And the substitution window, actually, as a matter of fact, we are still within the substitution window. INEC made us believe that substitution ended on the 23rd of September, which is this immediate past Monday. But in reality, the Electoral Act here states in section 35 that every political party, or every candidate has up to 45 days before the election to withdraw, and then parties can substitute. Okay. That means even tomorrow, we are still legitimately allowed within the specific time to withdraw.
What I understand is that true of us, you have gone to INEC to submit a replacement.
Of course, we did that.
Okay, so now another question is that you are not the one that does not meet the criteria.
Not me. Not me, my deputy.
And you say that you have been disqualified.
That's it. And this has so many questions of technicality we have to ask INEC. One, do they have the right to reject or disqualify me, and a deputy, even though he's underage? Second question is, does INEC have the right to reject substitution? Third question is, does INEC have the right not to accept withdrawal?
Okay. Let's take a break, Mr. Akpoti. And when we come back, INEC will respond to some of these issues. Mr. Festus Okoye is in our Abuja studio. Some of the issues raised, Mr. Akpoti, Mr. Akpoti here. What is happening ahead of the Kogi and Bayelsa election gets our attention next on the program. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with us, everyone. Natasha disqualified. I told you, it's not the big brother Natasha. Natasha Akpoti in the SDP Kogi State governorship election race. She's been talking to us on the program. She's here. And from our Abuja studio is Mr. Festus Okoye. He's INEC National Commissioner in charge of publicity. We're talking about what is happening in the Kogi State governorship election. Thank you so much for coming on. Let me allow Mr. Okoye to respond to what you have said. You did say you are qualified. You have met the criteria, but it does mean that your party is not going to be on the ballot. Is that true?
Of course, definitely. It's my day. I put in a 34-year-old deputy, and there's a window of substitution where we brought forward a 48-year-old engineer within the time of substitution. I have the letter here, which we responded on the 19th, but finally, it was actually accepted on the 23rd. 23rd, which the substitution ended, according to them, 6 p.m., and it was received before then. Why am I still disqualified? I don't know.
Well, Mr. Okoye, how would you react to some of these allegations leveled against the commission by Ms. Akpoti?
We need to put certain things in context. The first issue is that she has on her own acknowledged that the candidate they nominated for the position of deputy governor is not qualified or was not qualified ab initio. The second thing you must acknowledge, and she must acknowledge, is that the commission does not deal with individuals. The section 31 of the Electoral Act she is talking about says that every political party that intends to nominate candidates should, within the window allowed by the commission, propose the candidates it wants to nominate. So the commission deals with political parties and not with individuals. The third issue is that we met with the leadership of the SDP, and she was there, although she didn't attend the meeting. The national chairman of the SDP, the two national vice chairmen, the secretary of SDP, and the national organizing secretary. And they acknowledged the fact that they had not satisfied the constitutional requirement relating to the issue of the deputy governor. And they pleaded for the commission to waive the period, to waive the irregularity or to waive the error and allow them to substitute. And the commission made it very clear that the window of substitution is only allowed for political parties that submitted the candidates that made valid nominations. That the moment there is a problem with the validity of the nomination, the window of substitution does not avail you because you cannot put something on nothing and allow it to stand.
Okay, so now, Mr. Okoye, Sorry, Mr. Okoye, let me ask you,
Yes.
because I have so many things to ask on this very matter, because I
Yes.
understand this is not the only party. Out of 50-something, it's just about 23 that are being allowed and validly going to go for the election based on what you said to Nigerians. But let me ask you quickly, Mr. Okoye, the deputy's nomination as a fault, not the candidate, is it? Why is it that the party
Yes.
will not be able to field candidate? Why are you not invalidating the deputy slot? Why are you invalidating the old slot for the SDP in Kogi State?
Yes, I will respond to you. I think that you should also get the candidate to agree that the SDP governorship candidate in Bayelsa and the deputy governorship candidate in Bayelsa were also caught up by the age requirement, and that the deputy governorship candidate of the SDP in Kogi State was also caught up by the same issue. Now, if you look at Section 187 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it makes it very clear that everything that applies to the governorship candidate applies to the deputy governorship candidate, and that they are CSME twins, that whatever affects one affects the other. So, very unfortunately, she's caught in that quagmire. But as a lawyer, I believe that she ought to have known and ought to have taken more than a cursory look at the nomination form submitted in relation to her deputy to make sure that everything is in place. Because as a lawyer, some of the things available to those who do not know or who are not learned in the law will not apply to her. So I believe that the party has accepted the reality of the fact that it will not be on the ballot. And the commission does not deal with individuals.
Just
we deal with
for a
political
moment.
parties.
Mr. Okoye, please, apologies, Ms. Akpoti. You agreed, based on Section 187 of the Constitution,
yes,
that what affects your deputy affects your own standing in the race.
No, that's not what it says. It says the qualification of the deputy ought to coincide with the qualification of the governor.
So no, it says in any election to which the foregoing provisions of this part of this chapter relate, a candidate for the office of the governor of a state shall not be deemed to have been validly nominated for such office unless he nominates another candidate as his associate for his running for the office of governor, who is to occupy the office of the deputy governor. Yeah. He went further to say, and that candidate shall be deemed to have been duly elected to the office of the deputy governor if the candidate who nominated him is duly elected as governor in accordance with the said provisions. So it does look like there's a coil that ties the candidate himself or herself with the running mate.
There is indeed, but like it said here on the qualifications here. And may I draw your attention as well to this. It is not INEC's responsibility to determine the validity of a candidate, any candidate, deputy or otherwise. And may I draw your attention to 2015, as much as I hate to, during the wake of the crisis, the president's certification crisis, where he did not submit his secondary school certificate, this same INEC actually responded that it was not in their duty to disqualify or question any of the certificates presented by the political party, that whatever any political party presents, whether the documents are complete or not, they accept, and their duty is to organize the election. Is this same INEC?
Did you see any
Exactly.
foul play in this?
Of course there is. It's INEC playing double standards. Now let me draw your attention again to the immediate past 2019 March 9th February elections. Here I have, Mr. Okoye very well knows this. And this is it I got from the website. Over 120 candidates that were underaged were made to contest, allowed to contest. You have 21-year-old, 20-year-old from Sokoto. We have about 5 candidates here, did not provide their birth certificates, but INEC wrote 0 for them. So what are we saying? Did the Constitution change? Or did INEC just suddenly realize that they are bound by the Constitution?
Mr. Okoye, how would you react to this if INEC, in the first place, these are published. I've gone through some of these things and seen that some people actually ran for election in 2019 and did not meet the criteria. What happened? That was an illegality, isn't it?
It was. During the 2019 elections, we processed over 40,000 applications, and in the process, some of the people were overwhelmed. And after the elections, we drew the attention of the political parties, all of them, to the fact that some of them nominated underage candidates. And we told them that we will not allow such to happen anymore. So all the political parties were put on notice that the commission will no longer allow such an illegality to occur. So the SDP was on notice of what we were going to do. And it is unfortunate that of all the political parties in Nigeria, that it was the SDP that nominated three candidates that did not meet the age criteria.
Mr. Okoye, I'd like you to respond, but let me ask you this, because also we're looking for ways by which some of these issues can be resolved. Please, I need you to help me. I need you to help me because at some point, a lot of people will think maybe it's punitive and they are reading minutes to some of these issues. Would you temper justice with mercy in this case, other than disqualify a whole political party because of an error, which the commission was said to have been found guilty in the 2019 elections? Just in 30 seconds, if you react to that.
No. We will not willingly and knowingly violate the provisions of the Constitution. The period for nomination has closed, the period for substitution has closed, and the boss has already left the station. So, and the party in question has accepted the fact that it will not be on the ballot.
Wow. Okay, Mr. Akpoti, your final statement.
Oh, may I say this first? We had the window of substitution, which we are denied to use. And the SDP has not accepted that we're not going to be on the ballot. And it's very unfortunate for INEC, with all of the experts there, the professors, to actually choose and decide what part of the Constitution to violate, when and how. He's here saying that they were actually overwhelmed because they received over 40,000 applications. It's not our duty to accept that INEC was overwhelmed. It is about time that they take the responsibility. And if Mr. Okoye speaks on behalf of INEC that you cannot build you cannot build something on nothing, you can't build legality on illegality, then that means the 2019 presidential and gubernatorial election is null and void, because a lot of illegalities here. And I can tell you this, that there is a reason why INEC always is headed by the professors, because they seem to be experts of knowledge. They seem to be mentors of processes. So
what would you do now, Mr. Akpoti? We need to close.
We're actually going to court on this because I'm actually wrongly disqualified. Yes, we put in a 34-year-old, but on the 19th and 20th, we went to INEC to submit a substitution, which were denied. And that's within the window of substitution. So we have to ask them later, what is substitution window for again?
Thank you so much, Mr. Akpoti, and I wish you the very best in the coming days.
I
was almost pleading for your party with INEC. Not that I'm taking side, but it's just that it's painful, this kind of things happening. Well, that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. Mr. Okoye, thank you so much for coming tonight. I'm Shion Kimbale. Bye-bye.